Greetings to all viewers of Freedom TV channel. Thank you for being with us. This is our time. Here are the top stories at this hour. I'm Yuri Kulinik in the studio. Hello. There were 137 combat clashes on the front lines over the past day. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in their morning briefing. The Pokrovsk direction remains the most active area. There, Russian invaders tried to break through Ukrainian defenses 42 times. On the Novopublika section of the front, 33 Russian attacks were recorded and 19 on the Lyman sector. Ukrainian forces thwarted 8 breakthrough attempts on the Torets direction, 8 on the Kupiansk direction, and 5 on the Siversk direction. The Ukrainian defense forces eliminated 1,000 Russian occupiers over the past day. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, the Russian army has lost more than 1,064,000 soldiers, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Also, the day before, Ukrainian defenders knocked out 4 tanks and 7 armored fighting vehicles, 37 artillery systems, and 2 multiple rocket launchers. In addition, the defense forces destroyed more than 190 Russian operational tactical drones and over 130 vehicles. Russia launched more than 70 drones of various types at Ukraine on Monday night. The attack came from 4 directions: Shadolovo, Kursk, Milarovo, and Primorsko-Ahtarsk. Ukrainian air defenders shot down 59 Russian UAVs, according to the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. There were 12 drone strikes recorded at 6 locations, and debris fell at another site. And in the morning, Russian forces attacked Kherson with a drone. A civilian was injured. The man suffered a blast injury, according to the Regional Military Administration. And at night, the Russians attacked a civilian car with a drone near the village of Krutoyar. As a result of the strike, a woman was injured. She suffered a blast injury as well as bruises. And at night, the Russians also attacked the Jarachi community in Kharkiv region with a drone. After midnight, an FDD drone struck a private residence in the village of Dubalka. According to local authorities, the shelling damaged the roof of a residential house as well as a car. Fortunately, there were no casualties. At night, the Russians also attacked the Shaska community in Sumy region. 2 districts were affected. In one, an infrastructure facility and 2 residential houses were damaged. In the other, agricultural warehouses and farming equipment were destroyed. According to the Sumy Regional Military Administration, over the past day, Russian forces shelled 46 settlements in the region 135 times. And on Monday night, drones attacked the Nizhny Novgorod region of the Russian Federation. Around 4 in the morning, loud explosions were heard over the city of Arzamas, according to local social media groups. Eyewitnesses counted at least 5 drones, adding that they were flying very low. A video appeared online that allegedly shows UVs striking the Arzamas instrument-making plant. It manufactures equipment for the aviation and space industries, as well as control systems, onboard electronic computers, steering drives, and more. Its products are used in fighter jets, bombers, helicopters, anti-aircraft missile systems, and also in spacecraft. Partisans from the Atesh movement have revealed key Russian military facilities at the Kacha airfield in temporarily occupied Crimea. They identified the locations of important radar systems, including the Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft missile and gun system. I should note that the Kacha airfield is a key hub for the Russian army on the peninsula. The strike aviation of the 318th Regiment is stationed here, as well as command posts of the Russian occupiers. All of this enables the coordination of airstrikes against mainland Ukraine. As noted by Atesh, the information obtained was passed on to the Ukrainian Defense Forces, and they reminded that the airfield has already been targeted by strikes. The most recent was on the night of July 23rd to 24th. Azerbaijan will allocate $2 million for humanitarian aid to Ukraine. This follows from a decree by the country's president, Ilham Aliyev, according to Azerbaijani media. The money will be used, among other things, to purchase electrical equipment. Let me remind you that the day before, The presidents of Azerbaijan and Ukraine had a phone conversation and condemned Russia's targeted airstrikes on the oil depot of the Azerbaijani company, Saqqara, and other energy facilities. The leaders expressed confidence that under no circumstances would this lead to a halt in cooperation between Baku and Kiev in the energy sector. Meanwhile, the U.S. may reduce tariffs on imported goods. This will happen if the trade imbalance improves, stated U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. According to him, over time, tariffs should become, and I quote, like a melting ice cube, provided that manufacturing returns to the United States. Bessent also touched on the topic of negotiations with countries that have not yet signed trade deals. According to the minister, Washington will conclude these negotiations by the end of October. Special attention will be given to the deal with China. But Russia is preparing for oil prices to fall to $50 or even $40 per barrel. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine, citing a report from the Russian Roskomnadzor Foundation. The price of raw materials could drop to record lows as early as the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026. The resource revenue of the aggressor country largely depends on how much Russian oil China is willing to import. Andriy Matrenko will continue on this topic.
U.S. President Donald Trump is convinced if the main importers of Russian oil stop buying it, the aggressor country will lose its primary source of funding for its war machine. At the top of the list of Russian oil consumers are China and India. On August 6th, President Trump raised tariffs on Indian goods to 50%. New Delhi is already looking for ways to diversify its supply sources. The United States has not yet announced new tariffs for China. But even if Washington imposes them, Beijing will not stop buying oil from Russia, according to China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
China has the legal and legitimate right to engage in economic, trade, and energy cooperation with other countries, including Russia. We will continue to take measures regarding energy supply that are right for China from the perspective of our national interests. Guo Jiaquin, spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the PRC, at a press conference.
According to the General Administration of Customs of China, in the first half of 2025, Russian oil accounted for 17% of the total fuel imports. Russia is the largest supplier of oil to China. Saudi Arabia is in second place. But for China, it's more convenient to buy fuel from Russia from a logistics standpoint.
It's also important for China that this oil is transported over land through pipelines. In other words, the logistics are protected. China, for example, isn't dependent on potential problems that could arise in the Middle East or the Strait of Malacca. China isn't even worried, for example, about the shadow fleet because everything goes through pipelines, and to a certain extent, that's also a matter of national security.
However, Moscow is much more dependent on Beijing. According to China's General Administration of Customs, in 2024 Russia sold crude oil to China worth more than $60 billion. Shipments to China accounted for 51% of all Russian oil exports. But the cooperation between the two countries doesn't stop there. After the aggressor country was cut off from most global markets, trade turnover between Beijing and Moscow has been growing rapidly. In 2024, it reached a record high of almost $245 billion. China supplies goods, components, and equipment for most sectors of the Russian economy, including the defense industry. For China, this is a unique opportunity to monopolize the vast Russian market. That's why, despite its declared neutrality in Russia's war against Ukraine, Beijing is in fact supporting Moscow.
All in all, China, which is doing little to resolve the war, can be satisfied with any outcome of the situation. And if the war continues, it will find its own benefit in that. If the war ends, it will also constructively fit into that situation, adapt to it, and won't have any major regrets about missing out on certain opportunities. For it, both outcomes are basically acceptable.
The US and EU have repeatedly accused China of supplying the Kremlin with dual-use goods, which the aggressor country uses in its military industry.
We once again call for an end to the export of dual-use goods to the Russian Federation, which contribute to the development of Russia's military-industrial base and enable it to strike Ukraine with drones and missiles. Beijing's statements about imposing strict controls on the export of dual-use goods lose all meaning in light of the daily discovery of Chinese-made components in drones, weapons, and vehicles that Russia uses to attack Ukraine.
Moreover, Beijing exerts exceptional influence over Pyongyang, which has become one of Moscow's main military allies. In 2024, Russia and North Korea signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. North Korea supplies Russia with weapons, ammunition, soldiers, and labor, while Moscow has increased oil deliveries to Kim Jong-un's regime, bypassing UN sanctions. Analysts are convinced that none of this would be possible without China's consent. Andrei Danilenko for Freedom TV Channel.